ladies. What is up?
Hello.
How
Happy
are y'all?
Tuesday.
Doing good yourself?
I'm good, thanks. How have your weeks been?
Survive.
Good. We have Employee Appreciation Week at work, so we're doing all kinds of fun things and playing Olympics and all kinds of treats and stuff like that. So it's a fun week. Good.
Oh, yay. I play like in another role with Wells. I played an Olympics. Well, I was part of the planning committee. I started the engagement committee, and then like some other people wanted to do the Olympics, so they played it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we're having fun. So
are you winning now?
No, but that's okay because you don't always have to win to have fun.
You don't? But I think your husband's going to be upset if you don't win because he's kind of a little competitor.
Oh, we both are, but it's all okay. It's all okay.
I'm glad you're having fun. Kari, how's work going for you, honey?
I'm still earning a paycheck.
Hey, I've had weeks like those too.
Today I had my eyes dilated at 9 o'clock this morning, my time. So, I mean, I'm in Central Standard Time, but I'm 9 hours into this and I still have dilation. That's very, very weird. I do not like it. This is why I am not one that can be, I don't like an altered state for long periods of time. So that is a nice thing because I don't like living in an altered state. So
yeah,
I hear you.
It's very annoying. But I get some cool glasses out of it. If we're gonna,
I'm excited for the cool new glasses. Can't wait to see you wear your sunglasses at night. And Kyle, when you start watching, that will be a comment for you since I used to play that song all the time at work. So we have some topics to go into a little bit tonight. We're going to just do a little bit of NFL. We're going to talk a lot about 9/11 too, because we still remember 9/11 and everything that entailed, and how that kind of affected us and shaped us. But Kari, and I were talking about, and I think Candy was part of the conversation too in our group chat about the fields and that, that were played on this past weekend on Thursday and Friday nights with them being soccer fields. No, wait. Thursday night was at Arrowhead. Sorry, I lied.
No, soccer has been played on there, but it's not at the soccer field.
Right. So Kari, why don't you tell a little bit about what you read and we're talking about in our group chat?
Right. So I have always found it to be very interesting and kind of questioned, why is it when we go to these international, depending on which way we go, we're going into stadiums that support soccer play or football, right? So why is it that it's very hard for our football players, USA football, to go to these football stadiums? I saw an article and then followed up with a tweet by J.J. Watt, who's one, you guys know I like him. So that where ours is either all natural turf or it's all artificial, theirs is a 50-50 that's designed to handle lighter weight, more agile players for an extended period of time. So where ours would need to be able to handle the rugged, big guys, theirs needs to be able to handle much smaller players for an extended period of time. So there's more of a give to the field. But the mixture of the two types is hard for our guys to, one, be sustained on because it is supposed to be glided on more than run and planted on. And two, just the sheer volume of, or the weight of our players, because they're, if you think about football, soccer, they're wearing shorts and a shirt and their cleats. So they're not wearing a lot of protective gear and stuff except for at the goals.
Right.
our players are fully donned, our teams are fully donned in heavy gear that our players are conditioned to wear, but there's more weight to the player out there on the field, both physically and with equipment. So when you go over to Europe, those are going to be stadiums that have been built more in line with American football, it seems. When you go play in the Southern Hemisphere, it appears that it's more that 50-50 field. And I'm thinking of, the Jaguars, Jaguar owner stadium in England and such. They're built so they can play both. Or in the Southern Hemisphere, they're built to play football, not football.
The one thing I wanted to add to this is Kenny Clark came out and he plays for the Packers, and he opened up about the field conditions. He says it was trash. He goes, I've played in snow. I've played in rain. I've never played on a surface like that. Like clay was actually coming out of the ground. There were holes in the ground. It was a tough surface to play on. And we're fortunate that players didn't get injured because of that. We can all say, I know Jordan Love got injured, but I also found it interesting before his injury, throughout the game, they kept going back and showing them massaging his muscles and stuff like that. And that has a lot to do with the ground he was playing on. And I don't think most of us realize that. The injury didn't, but.
Well, do you remember that, and this is when the LA fires were, so it was a year that we were to play Los Angeles in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. And the field was so subpar that they could not risk Aaron Donald and Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Like, they were naming the big names. We are not putting them on the field for risk of injury. And so that's why it was not played in a neutral site, and it was played in LA because they just had the fires, which in hindsight, that was, if everybody remembers, that was the game that was a phenomenal, offensive warfare that ended with was a 2 or 3 point difference. So I'm like, it was 50-47 or something ridiculously high. It was really a captivating game, but they played in really bad, kind of hazardous, because the air was so filled with smoke and debris. But they were not willing to risk putting NFL players of that caliber on that field. And so it was delayed until they laid a new field, but it still was, we played the Chargers the next year there, and it still was not easy, but it was safer for the players. But yeah, it's that whole, we're risking to bring our football to the world. We're risking our players on foreign soils, soccer fields. And that has me a little, my brain doesn't wrap around that very well.
I was on another podcast over the weekend, on Saturday, in fact, and they allow us to do like a rant or a bum of the week is what they call it. And my bum was Roger Goodell, because I get you're trying to grow a international audience. I get that. I get you're trying to make money, and that's the sole purpose of your job, really, is to make money. But at what cost? And, going to these soccer stadiums where they don't play our brand of football, and they're not safe as well to play on, I have a problem with that. And then and on top of that, you're going to put on a stream-only platform.
Thank you.
You're going to only put it on Peacock unless you're in the, and I just have problems with that. Like, I get some of these other regular season games on Peacock streaming, but ones that are unusual, different, out in, in Brazil, like, those are international ones. Why are you doing that on a streaming only?
Well, why are they doing playoff games on streaming only?
Yeah.
Right.
And then if you're a friend of me on Facebook, you know that Sunday I was an addict without a fix, because my ex TV service, if you want to go find out, I'm not going to bash them on here, but my ex service doesn't have or did not have ESPN. The mouse and them are at odds. But as a person that has grown up, always been able to watch football, I have to have something, I had to find something that would have local channels and ESPN. And I had, and I'm like, why are we doing this to a fan base that you're wanting to get money from, you're wanting to grow, you're going international. Why are we putting your fan bases through all of these things for what?
The almighty dollar.
Greed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what stinks so much. And that's rampant. Because first of all, are you really going to get the viewership in Brazil? You are in London and Germany because they have rugby. They have like other, very physical sports. I don't feel like, and I don't know this, so anybody can correct us. And hi, Adam. I'll put your comment up and when we change topics. But what was I saying? But and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I think of Brazil, I think of swimming, I think of gymnastics, I think of soccer, the original football. Mm-hmm. I don't think of rugby. I think of baseball. I don't think of high impact sports with the exception of like mixed martial arts. I mean, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Brazil's in the name. That's what I think of, but that's more one-on-one. That's not a team combat sport. So anybody watching or listening, please correct me if you know something I don't know.
Okay, so let's even go one step further. If we're sending players into an area to grow a fan base, which you would want, I would think as a marketer, you would want to have something for every age, every part of the age group, right?
Right.
It is not safe to travel to Brazil or to South America in most countries at the moment. I know this. I work in the travel industry. The players were not taking their families with them.
Yeah.
Why are we growing a market? Why are we growing in this market? What are we hoping for?
Well, we told the players not to leave the hotel. So you go from the hotel right just to the stadium and then back. Like they couldn't even be out there to enjoy. Like I hate to say this, but to be out there and enjoy the sights and stuff like that, and to interact with the fans, they couldn't do that because they were told not to because it wasn't safe.
Thanks, Adam. I didn't know that. I don't know if you ladies knew that or not.
No, I did not.
I did not know.
I find that is, we might as well be putting an international game at Israel or I don't know, maybe Carlsbad, I don't know. If it put in the middle of Afghanistan, I feel like that's about the same level of security that we're giving our players when we put them in places like that. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So segueing, we also did, Kari and I both heard about this, and Katie, I'm sure you did too. You're so tuned into everything. But Tom Brady was on last week. We think it was Stephen A. Smith's, but I mean, I can't remember right now. I listened to so many different podcasts. I really shouldn't listen to or admit that. But he was talking about how honestly quarterbacks now are at a huge disservice in the NFL. And I can agree with that, especially rookies. I do think New England standing by their way. I think that, Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, right? First season. When you're allowing your rookie quarterback to sit behind someone else, Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 5 years, 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
When you're allowing your quarterback to do that, then that's added. In all honesty, not every rookie is going to be a Cam Newton who can come in off the field and turn a program around. But even with Cam, it took him 3 years to be elected captain. So you still got to fight. And then we're seeing, like, with my Panthers, what happens when you don't have a starting quarterback as a rookie to sit behind. It is my personal belief that a couple of former quarterbacks with the Panthers were trying to help Bryce on the side. I don't know if that's still the case. Kind of doubt it. But we just see it. We see it day in, day out. Trevor Lawrence, his first 2 years in the league. And Katie, you know this better than I do. You cover the Jags. Other quarterbacks. I mean, Brady's not wrong. And I'm still old school in my thoughts in that dynasties are built on defense. I mean, Tom Brady alluded to that, but he's not going to full out say that. But he is the GOAT of the postseason.
Well, also, his statement was, "We're dumbing down football to put rookies on the field."
Yeah. And look what's happening.
We get what? Please
Caleb
don't.
Williams.
But we get the Giants and Panthers as another international game. I mean, that's the product of. We make Derek Carr look like a godsend and this super powerful quarterback that, quite honestly, I'm happy he had a great game. That is not indicative of their team.
And I will say this. I do not know that Sunday's performance is indicative of the Carolina Panthers rest of the season.
I don't think so either. I'm just saying
that was the first game the players had played. The starters had played. We played one play in preseason.
That's the way a lot of them are. That's the way a lot of those games were, though. If you looked at a lot of the NFL games around the league, that you could tell the starters that hadn't played in preseason. And that's one of the biggest differences for Kari's Chiefs, because they've played in preseason.
They did.
You know,
Andy Reid was putting Patrick out.
They go out for it's kind of a staggered thing. Is Andy has so there's going to be this many plays in the first quarter, and it's going to be our starters, and then they pull everybody else out. Then they pull them all out, but they're getting those reps, And I've heard all about how you guys didn't win any preseason games. Who cares? Our team played though, and they had enough reps that you watched Worthy be able to read Mahomes on his first catch and score.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what you're wanting? Isn't that what you want? Is that gel to go for those pieces to be able to jump out and go? So for Andy, I think he's a very intuitive coach.
Right. I mean, and I've complimented Andy Reid before and how he handles Patrick Mahomes. And it's not just Patrick, it's all of his players. Mm-hmm. But I am going to segue. This is actually a really good topic because we know Miss Candy Cane has another show at 8:00. So, today is 9/11. Today is a day that should be remembered. I know exactly where I was. Adam, I'm going to put your come up now. But I'm going to let you two go first. Kari, I'm going to let you go. Then Candy, we're going to go round robin. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I will tell you that it was very eerie where I live. I live here in central United States. At the time, I lived 45 minutes from Fort Leonard Wood, or some people know it as Fort Lost in the Woods, because it is a very remote Army base, and it does it's mostly wooded. But the only planes that were in the air, the only things that we were seeing was from Fort Wood. And it was very eerie because living in the middle of the United States, you do see a lot of, if you don't see the planes, you see the entrails. And so the sky was empty, and that was incredibly weird. But it made almost everything else feel still. Like there was not a lot of birds chirping. I mean, it was just a very still environment. It was almost like everything stood still. my son was born 11 months later, and he has always been captivated by this. And we got to see his 8th grade year. We went to New York City as part of the school trip, and they got to see the 9/11. I got to see in person the 9/11 memorial. It's hard. And then I got to walk the path at the Pentagon, and I saw where if you've ever been to the Pentagon and see where the statue of the entrails, and you can see where the top of the statue would have scratched the belly of the plane. And you're looking, you're like, that's a skyscraper. I mean, that's less than a skyscraper, and it's just a very impactful feeling. Yeah.
Candy.
So 9/11 is one of those dates that if you were alive and old enough, you will always remember where you were when you heard, I was driving to work when the first plane hit. I was just walking in when the second plane hit. Now, mind you, ladies, I actually worked inside a credit union, inside the VA hospital, on the VA ground. So I was in a government building. And so the minute then they heard that the Pentagon was hit, we immediately went into a lockdown because they didn't know what other targets would be, being that they were hitting, they had hit the Pentagon, and they knew it was terrorist at that point. And it was a very eerie feeling because I had one of my customers at the time came in, and she's like, my sister works at the Pentagon and I can't get a hold of her, and I have no clue if she's alive, where she's at. It was a very scary, very eerie feeling around the hospital. Everybody was on pins and needles. I want to say everybody was clamoring towards the TV, I think. But the one thing I will say is I miss what 9/12 was. I miss us all rallying around and being proud to live in the United States of America.
And even the night of 9/11, sorry to interrupt you.
No. I mean, I hate that it took 9/11 for us to get to that point, but I'm afraid we're not at that point anymore. Like we've regressed so bad that I miss that.
Yeah.
But I will never forget 9/11. I'll never forget where I was. I never forget for weeks after that how going into a government building had changed. I had never gone into a building where I was searched. They searched us all, that the couple weeks, because we were going into a government building, government hospital, making sure that we weren't bringing anything, in, and that was just sad. And things have changed so much since then, and not all of them are for the better.
Right. And I remember, and it's kind of eerie today because I'm not going to lie, and I really hope my boss is not watching right now. I did not want to get out of bed today. I have been dragging all day long. And my coworker who's from New York was like, it's September 11th. And I was like, that explains my mood. It was like, thank you. And he was like, no, you're welcome. Like, he was like, I'm always depressed. I used to always take it off. And that's impactful. But I remember I was at 3 Wachovia, 3 First Union at that time. Sorry, had to go through the gamut there. And I remember that morning, my dad had to drive me to work because my brother had my car for some reason. And we were passing by one small building in downtown. And I looked at my dad and I go, what do you think would happen if that building just suddenly collapsed? This was 7:30 in the morning. 7:30 in the morning on September 11th, I asked that question, 2001. Going to work, starting my day off, doing what I did because I was like an office manager's assistant at that time. So I had to start the day off by sorting the mail for everybody on my floor, right? And my girlfriend, Tina, would always come in with me. Still love her. Tina, I love you. And we would, and then all of a sudden our other friend came running in and she's like, Jen, come out here. Come, Tina, come. So we went and we watched and we saw the first boating after it had been hit. Then we saw the second plane hit the second boating. Charlotte was on the list. They did an immediate shutdown of downtown Charlotte. I looked down on Tryon and now I work on Tryon again. And so today when I'm looking down from the 37th floor and I look down at the same time, and I wanted to look down at 9:30. And I looked at my friend and I said, this road right here on September 11th, 2001 was the sardine can. We were next on the list after the Pentagon. They had flights en route to Charlotte. And then they heard that they were going to be shot down. So those terrorists decided to just land correctly. But we were next on the list. And I will never forget seeing the sardine can of traffic on Tryon. And then it being so empty within 3 or 4 minutes. I literally did not sleep. Huh?
Jen, I'm sorry, but I got to go. You guys keep going, keep talking.
Okay.
Remember, 9/11. Thank you, everyone.
Never forget.
Never forget.
Hi, Candy.
Yep.
But I never. I don't want people to forget. I want people to know the impact, the real impact that occurred. I didn't sleep for 3 days, Carrie. I did not. I had a girlfriend, and we're definitely not as close as we were, but we still love each other. I actually had 2 girlfriends. One girlfriend worked for MSNBC. Another one worked for a reinsurance company. And the one who worked for MSNBC ended up giving me like information, but it was funny because First Union at the time, like they would let me receive the emails, but when I went back to look for them, like even a week or 2 later, they were gone. I didn't delete them. So I wasn't supposed to have some of the information I was getting. Like did I have this email address? I should see if I have those emails still in my personal email. I wonder if I forwarded them to me. But yeah, like it just.
This is the beginning of the end of the fact that I watched so much nonstop coverage.
Yep.
Is the reason why I'm within 6 months of today where I start giving up a lot of TV. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watch shows, but I don't watch. I cannot do the constant barrage of news. It's a mental health problem for me. I mean, I can't. To this day, I can remember wondering, there were people that they were interviewing that night or talking about the night of 9/11, the people they were listening for, looking for. And there are times that my heart almost goes to a racing point, wondering if those people ever, who they ended up being. Were they some of the survivors? Were they some of the people that were never to be found again? And
yeah, I had guys.
I had to learn to frame this day as the birth of a new nation, and frame it that way because, this was devastating. But starting that night and into the next, into 9/12 is when our nation decided we don't care what little emblem that you like to vote for. We don't care what your skin color is. We don't care any of this. You're an American, and we're going to stand together, and we're going to overcome this. And as Candy mentioned earlier, that we are so far from that it is very sad to me, and not to get into political, but there was a presidential debate last night, and I have purposely stayed off the internet today because I have watched people that are friends that I've known forever going at each other. And I'm like, That's sad to me. That is incredibly sad.
I know I made 2 posts. I don't even know if anybody commented, but yeah, nobody really commented. A couple of people liked some of them. Like, what really truly offended me last night was when he had the audacity to say she put out to get where she is. Something along those lines. I looked at my husband and I was like, did he literally just say that on international TV? And he was like, yeah. But back to 9/11, because you're right, we're not going to get into politics right now. It's too divisive. Because for some people, I'm not liberal enough, and for some people, I'm way a left extremist. It doesn't make sense. But just do the right thing, people. Just do the right thing. It ain't that hard. But back to 9/11.
Vote for the masses. Vote for, don't follow the masses. Vote for who you believe. And I don't care. I honestly, at this point, I want people to make an informed decision. I want to make them informed based on your heart and your brain, not what someone's saying on the internet and not what some tirade is saying. So as long as you're out there making a choice based on your own knowledge, that's all I want. That's what I want.
And I will say this back to the 9/11 topic. I had 2, maybe 3, but 2 that I remember, traders, because I worked on a trading floor at the time for First Union, who were stuck in the subway channels in New York because they were on their way to Cantor Fitzgerald. And other people had, my mom is a retired educator, and she had students whose parents had flown up like on Labor Day, because remember, it was the day after Labor Day, right? So some parents who worked in the financial industry had flown up to New York on Monday. And the kids didn't know where their parents were. And but I also remember George W. stating on the rubble was such an impassioned speech. I remember the entire House and Senate getting on the steps of Capitol Hill and singing "God Bless America."
I'm trying to remember the name of the restaurant we ate at is with the kids. I think it's called the World Sussex Cafe.
Oh, Megan's gonna be mad about that name.
They still had the same owners were still there, still working, and they led groups of people. They're like that. The owner said, "Everybody grab a hand and do not ever let go." And we're leaving as a group. And he led masses of people through the dust. And 2 doors down is a Burger King on that block, and it was the morgue because it had a bigger freezer.
Oh, in New York? Yeah.
It's walking distance from the Eyelash, the building that looks like this in the skyline. And it's called the Eyelash because when you're under the center of it, like depending on where you are in the building, you have different looks, right? But under the center, it looks like eyelashes that have come down, and you can look up through the eyelashes and see the clear blue sky. That was the intent of the building. That's where the subway. That's where you can get on the subway there. The fountain is amazing, and the way the water comes off of it, there's a rainbow there all the time. Like you can see the rainbow across through the mist. 9/11 museum is incredibly hard to walk through.
Yes. That and the Hold on, I want to say the right name. I'm sorry. I'm going to Google it real quick.
The thing that caught me most was people in the 9/11 museum. They have pictures of people and they have different things. You know, people were writing on their arm, their body, their name, their phone number, and who to contact.
Oh, yeah. And people, yeah.
With Sharpies. I mean, you're physically writing your name, your identification, so somebody can be contacted if you were to die there in the rubble.
The Capitol, it's called the Capitol Jewish Museum. It's a national museum. And the 9/11 Museum are the two hardest ones for me.
The Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. is gut-wrenching, but yes.
I'm going to say this. The three toughest museums for me. The 9/11 Museum, the Capitol Jewish Museum, and the African American National Museum. Those are the three toughest for me personally.
Yeah. I just hope that our nation can find our way back to 9/12.
Me too. We need it. There's literally one politician I trust. He's a local politician here in North Carolina that I trust at this point in time. They need to get away from the lies. All parties just tell
I think if we were to take away all of the extra pay and pay them like a public servant as opposed to royalty, pay the people that are in government like you would pay a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer.
And I actually understand them needing a little more money just because of the price of living in 9/11 than what you're going to get in Missouri or in North Carolina. But at the end of the day, they don't need to be making millions of dollars.
You do not need 6 and 7 figures to serve your nation.
No, you don't. You don't.
This isn't a get rich scheme, but we've made it we've allowed that to happen.
Absolutely, we have. All right, Kari, we have gone over. This has been a great conversation. I love you. If anybody watching this, even and if you're part of the replay crew, remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're really trying to grow this. So thank you we're close to 500. I'd love to have 500 by next week and then keep growing it as well. So Kari, I'm going to make you promote it on every page you're on.
Well, there's also, stay tuned because 3 Chicks in a Pod and Chicks and Salsa have something come up our sleeve.
Yes, we do. We have a couple of things.
So stay tuned.
But a really cool thing too, actually. Thank you again for this really awesome thing, Kari.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to see it.
Chris.
Love you. Thanks, y'all. See you guys in 7.